Hello, gorgeous. This is Dr. Brandt's oxygen facial flash recovery mask, and it is tingling. Let me clean it off so I can read to you what it says. Oh my gosh. Apply a thin layer to clean damp skin. It's almost impossible to read this, even with the oh, there we go. Whenever your skin feels lifeless, do not rub in. So I was careful not to do that. Leave on 3 to 5 minutes. Well, I'm going to be leaving it some time longer than that. Allowing oxygen spheres to fully activate. Oh my. Rinse thoroughly with warm water. For results, do it 2 or 3 times a week and put on some kind of Dr. Brandt serum afterward. Okay. While that does its thing, yeah, it's really tingling. I thought this week I'd tell you about some of the happiest times in my life that I can remember. This is going to drive me a little crazy. Hang on. Okay. There we go. One of my more recent happy periods was a period of time when we lived in Tupelo, Mississippi, and we both worked for a bank. My job was in operations. His job was in operations, but my hours were from 11 Monday and from 1 Tuesday through Friday till whenever we finished work, which was usually around 7, except the Monday after Black Friday when it was 8 or 8:30 or so. Okay, now that one's going to drive me nuts. All right. My department is called imaging, and that's where we the checks are deposited, and you sort through the checks and make sure they're all have the amount written in blue or black ink, and you make sure there are no staples, and then they're sent back to Richard, where he runs them through a giant sorting machine that costs millions of dollars, and then my department inputs them, and then after that you balance the batches, because they're put together at the branches with into batches that have little tapes with them. So anyway, it was a job I liked very much. It was like somebody paying me to do math and logic puzzles. Are you kidding me? You're gonna pay me to do that? So anyway, that was great. But what I do is I get up. Well, he worked from 10 till about 6 in the morning. And I would get up about 5, and I would go to the mall, and we'd walk. I'd start walking, and when he got there, he'd call me on the cell phone, and I'd proceed to take the quickest path to the beginning of the route, and then we'd walk together. And that went on for, I'd say, 3 to 6 months, and it was just endorphin euphoria, I think. And we both lost some weight and felt great. So that was a very happy period in my life. And looking back, I'm finding that a lot of my happy periods have to do with walking and or exercise. Another very happy period was the period of a year or 2 right before I met Richard. I had a relationship with my mother for that period of time, a lot like Dr. Dre. I was working for the antiquarian bookstore, and every weekend, most weekends, my mother and I would go out of town. I was a member of a club called AVA, American Volkssport Association, which sponsors 10-kilometer hikes. Some of them are urban, some are suburban, some are rural. And we took this as an opportunity to see little small towns all over Texas. So what we do is Friday night after work, we would drive to wherever, I got off at 6 and we'd go straight there. So we'd usually get there by 10 or 11. And then the next morning I'd go on my hike. And while doing so, I'd scope out maybe things for she and I to do. And then when I finished my hike, we'd go around and, see the sights, whether it was, historical things to see, antique stores, boutiques, festivals. A lot of times the walks would be paired up on festival weekends, and we'd have a blast. And then we'd either go back later that afternoon, but sometimes we'd spend another night and go back Sunday morning. I'm going to tell you one humorous story from that time period because she'd want me to. My father, when he passed away, my father shared my love for nice cars. I am currently driving a 1998 Honda Prelude, and this car is kind of poetry in motion. It has never looked out of style a single day since I've had it. It's poetry in motion. You look at it, it looks like it's moving. It's a hot looking car. Every teenage boy I meet wants to buy it from me. It's not going to happen. Anyway, my father left a Lincoln Continental Mark II, and it was sort of a bronzy brown with a brown cloth top. And we'd often take this on our walks, on our trips, because it needed to be driven if it was hoping to survive. Anyway, we were going to a walk in, we were going to the walk. Mama didn't walk, but I walked. But the town was called Boerne, B-O-E-R-N-E, and it's just outside of San Antonio. And this one was kind of a last-minute decision on our part. And we scampered out of town, and I think we reserved the hotel right before we left town. And it was sponsored by the Lady Lions Club, and I'd been in touch with them somehow to get the name of the hotel. Anyway, as we pulled into the town of Boerne and turned left onto the main drag, the car ran out of gas. Yeah. And it was about, oh gosh, midnight. So I pulled to the left and managed to pull the car into the parking lot of a hotel, which, darn it, turned out not to be our hotel. So I just kind of stood out in the middle of the road, and the first car that came along, I stood there going like this. And it turned out to be two teenage boys who took me and a gas can to the nearest gas station, which turned to be right next door to our hotel, which was sort of on the other side of town, and then brought us back, and filled up, put the gas in the car for me, and refused to take any money from my mother. It was one of the most reaffirming moments. Is like, wow, there's still really kind people out there. And so then I went to the gas station and filled up the car, and then drove right next door and checked into the hotel. But the next morning, while I was on the walk, the Lady Lion from the Lady Lions Club, or Lionesses, actually sought me out on the walk to say, "Hi, how are you? I'm glad you made it." Oh, she only knew. But anyway, and that was a very memorable walk, because while I was on that walk, I happened to walk through a part of town where I knew where the emergency medical clinic was. It was the emergency medical clinic. And like a year later, Richard and I got married and went to the hill country for our honeymoon. And I had gotten sick on the day of our marriage. This is on some other video. I got gastroenteritis. We had to leave a day late. We went to New Braunfels. Next day, we got up, and Richard had caught gastroenteritis, apparently from the same meal I did before our wedding. It just hit him a day later. But fortunately, our next stop was Boerne, and I knew where the emergency medical clinic was, so I was able to drive us straight there. amazing things like that. But anyway, that was a very happy period of my life, spending so much time with my mother. And also when we were in Houston for weekends, my cousin Bobby Sue and my Aunt Louise, the four of us would go to little festivals, because Houston has just festivals all the time. Like there's the Greek Festival, the Heights Festival, which was my neighborhood, um, Houston International Festival. And then we go to little towns in the area. Like we go to Hempstead because there was a statuary we liked there a lot, and a nursery and a vegetable stand and a five and dime. So it was one of the happiest periods in my life, I have to say. One last one, because we're running out of time already. No, two. The fall of 1977 was the first time I ever lived completely by myself in an efficiency apartment in Austin. I stayed in Austin for an extra semester because I had foolishly taken English history in junior college instead of American history. And I'd never got around to music appreciation, so I had a couple extra courses to take. And I took those, and I took a couple dance classes. And because I was completely responsible for my own diet, instead of a dormitory or sharing the dietary choices with a roommate, I was completely responsible for what I was eating. Plus I was taking this dance class and walking all over campus, and started that semester at 182 pounds and ended it at 138 4 months later. And I just, also the fact of living alone for the first time in one's life, you know, that was great. But I really enjoyed that time period, and spent all the time with my best friend Craig, who I mentioned in another video. So that was great. Because he was my soulmate. The other time, and this is a time from childhood that I recall as being one of the happiest memories, and I know this is going to be odd, but Sunday mornings I'd get up and my mother and I would go to Church of the Good Shepherd, Episcopal Church. And then sometimes on Sunday, my Uncle Leonard and my grandmother would come, and this is Grandma Potter, would come to the house early and take me with them to Sacred Heart Cathedral in downtown Houston. And so I'd go to Mass with them, and then we'd come home, we'd have Sunday lunch, and then Uncle Leonard would, often or not, you know, as often as not, propose that we go for a walk. And so he and I, and sometimes my best girlfriend Patricia, and my little sister from upstairs, Corrine, we'd, you know, all jump in his car, and we'd go to the nearby cemetery, which was Hollywood Cemetery, at the intersection of North Main and Interstate 45 in Houston. And we just walked through the cemetery. And I never asked him why we did this. I don't know if he was just a cemetery lover or if he enjoyed the walking. But we always enjoyed it. Cemetery art is generally really beautiful. I think we enjoyed that about it. I think we enjoyed also just getting out in nature, you know, and on beautiful days. So it's interesting that to me that all of my favorite memories seem to involve exercise and or walking, and that's probably an indication of what I should be doing right now, like get my butt back to the gym. Okay. It's been longer than it should be, so I'm going to go watch this and I'll be right back. Okay, hi, I'm back. Okay, let me see what this actually says. Wow. It's really tiny. Okay, here's what I was supposed to do though. Revitalize, hydrate, boost radiance. So, it feels very hydrated. I don't know if I'm ever radiant. I don't know. And I don't know about revitalize. What does that mean? I don't know. I will tell you this though. It was very hard to rinse. It was very sticky. I looked like I was peeling. I wish I'd have come near the camera so you could see how red it looked, but I looked like I was peeling from a sunburn. But at any rate, my face is very soft. It does that. It seems like most of these masks seem to do that good thing to the pores, where these through here you just can't even see them temporarily, you know, and these seem diminished. So yeah, I feel very soft and hydrated, although once again not really smooth exactly. So anyway, I know it's a tiny distinction, but it is a distinction. So anyway, there's that. All right, it felt funny, it felt good, but it was very difficult to wash off. I probably wouldn't buy this for that reason. I hate it when it takes you 15 minutes to just rinse your face. Okay. Hope you enjoyed today's video. I will list Cheryl's below, and please go see it. We generally put them up every Sunday, or most Sundays, at the same time. Love y'all. Bye.